What is going on YouTube? This is Jim back with another video and yet another month of Halo Infinite news. Super excited to be talking about it today, but before I get into that, I would love for you guys to subscribe to my channel. If you like this Halo content, well, you're in luck because I do a lot of it. Anytime 343 puts together a blog or a Ask 343, which is a question and answer session on YouTube, I always do video talking about it, giving some of my opinions and some of my takes. And this is the continuation of last month's blog where we actually got a deep dive into the audio design. So if you are really curious about how directional audio works, I go into an incredibly lengthy, nerdy discussion about all of that. So you can check all of that out there. This is more kind of Q&A based, so it's definitely not as technical, but there is some good information that comes out of here, and that's what I wanted to talk about. So this doesn't really flow in a general format in the sense that it's just random questions that 343 answers. I'm going to be addressing some of them out of order because I think it flows a little bit better with the narrative that I'm trying to tell you guys. But if you want to see it for yourself and follow Uni and the rest of the guys, I will post a link in the description box below, and you can check it out there and watch it for yourself. The big thing was obviously on sound, and one of the big questions was that the game soundtrack has been partially released. Will there be more information beforehand? And 343 has said that they will not be releasing any new tracks at this point. They're going to wait because some of the titles are actually spoilers for the game content, which would imply like it could be, you know, Arbiter's theme or Arbiter's death or something along those lines. We don't know quite yet, but they're looking to keep that under wraps until you play the game. I don't have an issue with this, although I think a lot of people do enjoy the kind of pre-game of stuff. I know a lot of my friends were really into the Hamilton soundtrack before the play actually came through. I think video games are a little different because you are kind of controlling the narrative on your own. In a sense, you're kind of playing through in your own way. So I think the music's going to impact you slightly differently than it impacts other people. So I'm okay with 343 presenting it to us in a format that makes sense to them, and then picking it up on the iTunes store later. That's what I've done with all the other Halo soundtracks, so I don't mind waiting a little bit longer until this one comes out. I will say that really, in my opinion, and this wasn't a 343 product, but the Halo 3 soundtrack in particular is just so phenomenal. The way it really lays out such a deep, engrossing narrative just in the audio itself. Obviously, the plot and everything definitely lays it on pretty thick at times, but I really thought they did a good job on that. And all I keep hearing when I think of 343 talking about this is a spiritual reboot of the series and we're going back to our roots, I can't help but think that they have Halo 3 in mind because it was such a universally appreciated, beloved game that is still wildly popular today on the Master Chief Collection. So I'm hopeful that they have learned some of their lessons. I think if you look back at the Halo 4 or the Halo 5 Guardian soundtrack, you may find a few tracks in there that you like, but I think you're going to have a hard time putting those two key moments in the gameplay, as where I think if you reflect fondly on Halo 3, you're going to instantly jam with some of those soundtracks instantly, not just the traditional Halo theme, but some of the other ones based on where you are in the world, because I think Marty O'Donnell was just at the top of his game at that point. I'm hopeful that they can repeat that. The next big thrust of questions talked about the threat tracking prioritization, which I deep dived a lot in that other video I was talking about that I did last month. Now, the threat track prioritization basically works that 343 is going to determine to you why and what you should be hearing. And I'm nervous about this. I think it could work, but I'm nervous about this. Right now, in any game, any sound design, you hear everything of equal noise relative to the player. So if there are two people standing directly to your left and right, 5 feet away, shooting their guns at you, you should hear it out of your both left and right ears. Let's just assume you're using a standard, 2.1 stereo headset, right? You should be able to hear equally the same intensity of volume out of your left ear and your right ear at the same time. They have said, they being 343, has said that they have found in Warzone in particular, where it's a much bigger battle, that people are just being overwhelmed with too many sound effects. There's too many battles and there's too many grenades and explosions, and it's hard to pinpoint what's going on in the action. Now, me personally, I enjoy this because I think it really fills out the sound stage. And one of the reasons I love Battlefield, just a little tangent here for a second, the reason I love Battlefield so much because Battlefield masterfully does this. Every sound effect you hear in a Battlefield game is made by another player. It's not ambient noise that's piped in. This happens quite a bit on other games, not on Battlefield. And I believe 343, when Halo 5 Guardians came out, did the same thing. Anything you heard was the only things in the game. And even though they were kind of loud and you'd be in a close firefight, I think it's that haze of war, almost in the sense of, you know, just there's so much going on around you that really did engross you in the experience. So when I heard that 343 was going to basically take that and put their own spin on it with this proprietary threat tracking prioritization, I got to admit, I'm a little worried. I'm still a little worried. However, they talked a lot more about that today. And one of the big things they said is that they are going to, and they've done a bunch of scenarios where they have determined what they think is the most important thing for you to hear at the time. That's not to say that, back to my example with 2 players standing directly 5 feet to your left and to your right, this time, if only the right player is shooting at you and the left player is not, you should hear more sound out of the right. They want you to play by that sound effect rather than what you're seeing on the screen. I'm not entirely sure I like this approach, as I've said numerous times today and in pretty much any video I've done covering this. But they went into more detail explaining that it really works out in a sense that it really kind of focuses you in on key moments of the action. It's going to reward people who are using their whole sound, and, you know, not just looking at things, but actually listening and really engrossing themselves in the experience. So vehicles shooting at you, which would do more damage than a soldier shooting at you, should potentially take priority. We'll have to remain how this works out. They did say ultimately, and this was the part that I was the happiest about, honestly, is that the way they have the system currently tuned, it's very easy to make adjustments, and it's very easy to essentially turn everything to the same coefficient, which effectively disables it. I hope, and we will see, I hope that there is an option to disable it, if I so choose to do so, and just go back to what I consider the basic Halo experience. But we'll have to wait and see on that. It's going to require a lot of tuning. I think the game's going to have enough going on for itself in terms of weapon balance and prioritization and crossplay between the old Xbox, the middle old Xbox, the brand new Xbox, and PC gaming. I feel like this may be a little bit too much to chew at once. This may be a bridge too far. It may work better in single player than multiplayer, but again, the fact that they can kind of take it back out is really good, and I would much rather them focus on the sound effects than I would rather them focus on the way I hear the sound. I have to admit that proprietary sound engine in theory doesn't always work so well. Case in point, look at the PlayStation Tempest 3D engine, which I have been incredibly critical of and I find to be a total waste of time. So remains to be seen on that one. They did also announce that the Voices of War pack, which I absolutely loved in Halo 5 Guardians, which I bought the second it came out, I think it was $10, and it included different voices for your announcers, would not be making a comeback, which I found to be really frustrating and sad because I thought it was a really cool way, despite the fact they talk constantly about how you're going to be able to customize your Spartan and customize your experience, and they have more news to share that they're not willing to reveal right now. The actual Voices of War will go away. So if you really enjoyed listening to Spartan Buck, Nathan Fillion, as much as I did when you were playing Halo 5, I have bad news for you. It sounds like he will not be making a return, which is kind of sad. But we will remain, you know, to see kind of what happens. Now, they did announce that Jeff Steitzer would be making a return. He is the notorious one in all of the Halo games. I'm so happy he is making a comeback. So it'll be really great to hear him and to see kind of what he's been up to and to hear his take on, you know, multi-kill, ultra-kill, because he's just the best. I'm very excited for that. So that's really good news there. What else did they talk about? They talked about the customization of player experience and what some of that could allude to. I don't really think, you know, maybe with that audio tuning, that was kind of the direction they were going in. I'm not really sure there. They were very kind of skittish on that answer. I feel like when you talk about a game that has a lot of customization, you know, the sound effects are what they are. There's really not a lot to tune there. But it's maybe, I don't know how often you hear them. I'm not really sure. I know I can tell you from my experience, I almost always turn sounds down, not sound effects, but the background music, almost down to 0. I find it incredibly distracting when I'm trying to play a game and the music starts swelling up. You see this in Overwatch, you see this in Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. It's very distracting. So much so, I encourage you, if you play either of those two games, do yourself a favor and turn it completely off for one match and see how much of a difference it makes. See how much of the game experience you actually enhance by not hearing this dopey kind of background music that builds up to these fan fest moments. Now, they did say that they would have sound that did that in the game. So in other words, the music is supposed to swell up now during natural moments, like at the end of a match or when a major capture is about to occur or something monumental happens. I don't necessarily need the fanfare and the trumpets and all that kind of stuff. I'll make my own hooting and hollering. I don't feel like I need that. So for me, I will most likely turn it off. But if you are somebody who does enjoy it and you are a streamer, they have announced that their intention is to make all the music DMCA free. If you're not familiar, DMCA is the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. It is what kills streams right now, and I can tell you I do a lot of streaming on Twitch, mostly just for footage on this YouTube channel, but I do a lot of streaming on Twitch, and I can't tell you how many times I have to go back and throw footage away because it's completely gutted. You know, Twitch doesn't differentiate what you're listening to. It just kills the entire audio of the stream. And I can't tell you how many times I wanted to get some footage or something and my stream was gutted because of that. So if this does remain true and they can offer DMCA free music essentially, and they are going to embrace the streaming community and they are going to embrace the content creator community, this is great news for me personally, but I think a lot of people are going to enjoy that and appreciate it because I think that's really where the future needs to go. Lastly, and I guess not really most importantly, but it was definitely one of the big keys of the previous Ask 343 with their last blog, they did announce that the Halo 2 battle rifle was in fact the main inspiration between the Halo Infinite battle rifle sound effects. And we played all those last month. Speaking of DMCA, YouTube decided that they didn't want me to hear that. So if you go back and watch my video, it completely mutes the audio, which is really stupid. But I did put links in the description below, and it was the top pinned comment. So you were able to hear everything directly from the Halo Waypoint blog. But that just goes further to show on my video, me talking about a game for 20 minutes, it decides to cut out like the best part of it, which is where you're actually hearing the sound effects, which was really incredibly stupid and really frustrating, and I wasn't very happy about that at all. But they did say that the Halo 2 rifle was a key inspiration, and I think playing a lot of Halo, clearly, I would agree with that. And honestly, going back and playing Halo 2 Anniversary so much, primarily because I had so many because I have so many dailies that I have to do that revolve around Halo 2. I've got to admit, I'm okay with that, and I think that that was a good choice. And I think Halo 2 is one of the better polished games in terms of sound effects, design, and brevity of things. The reason I play Halo 4 so much, coincidentally, is because I love the way it sounds. It's definitely very machine sounding, very powerful. The Spartans have a lot of heft to them. And I think a lot of that not only comes from just the way the game plays, but in terms of how the graphics are. You know, when you're running, your footsteps are very powerful. Your booster's got a very distinct crack to it, the way the Warthog just roars to life. So I'm really excited for that, and I hope that, you know, the sound is just as important to 343 as the audio design, because let's face it, that last 343 gameplay we saw last year definitely wasn't ready for prime time in a lot of different regards. So we'll have to, you know, kind of wait to see what happens. But that wraps up today's video. I hope you guys found it informative. Hope you enjoyed this valiant effort I had on Halo 4. Unfortunately, we lost, but hey, I had a good game, so I guess that counts for something. If you guys like what you see, again, consider commenting, rating, subscribing, all those wonderful things. I'll be back with more Halo goodness very, very soon. Until then, thank you guys so much for watching. Take care of yourselves, and until next time, I will see you guys on the other side.